and stomp out of the room muttering, "I hate dancing." Of course, when she was in Australia, she had a great time. Peter had a big, beautiful apartment in Sydney where they spent Christmas with Missy and several of her father's friends. He was a terrific cook, and the table looked like something out of a gourmet magazine with crystal and silver that glittered in the candlelight. Thank you for listening to me read.
Hi, my name's Mariah, and I'm going to be reading The House of a Million Pets. Here's how old I am, 51. I bet you think that's horribly old. Here's what I look like. I bet you wouldn't want to look like that. I bet you think you have more fun than I do, because you're a kid and you get to play, and I'm an old hag who just sits around mourning the past. You are so wrong. Being old is way better than being young, because when you're a grown-up, no one can keep you from doing what you want. If you want to play music as loud as possible, go ahead. Your mom doesn't live with you anymore. She can't scream, "Turn it down!" If you want to buy a huge bag of candy bars and eat it all yourself, go ahead. No one's going to warn you about cavities or say Americans eat too much junk food. And if your teeth all fall out, you can just buy some more teeth. If you want to write a paragraph with lots of exclamation points, do it. No teacher's looking over your shoulder. When you're a grown-up, you don't get grades. We're talking about near total freedom here. Near responsibility. Well, because if you're a grown-up, you might have a few responsibilities. You know, jobs and kids you have to take care of, and so on. But I think you would agree that it's not much of a problem, because kids prefer parents who buy big bags of candy and turn the music up to maximum volume. As long as the parents don't dance in front of the kids' friends and humiliate them. Kids also like parents who buy lots and lots of pets. Now, speaking as an adult, I have to say that many parents are not so great in this area. For some reason, they don't like the idea of adding animals to the household. There's a lot of "you can't have that hamster because I'll end up taking care of it," or "we don't have a dog. This house is crazy enough already," or "you know Grandpa's allergic to cats." Well, I'm not that kind of grown-up. When I was your age, or maybe a little younger, all I wanted was more and more animals. I always had a dog, of course, and a hamster or two, and maybe a guinea pig. Once, for a very short time, we had a parakeet. One day, my dog calmly picked it up in her jaws and began to carry it away. Thank you for listening to me read.
Hello, my name is Taylor, and I'm going to be reading Black Beauty. The first place that I can well remember was a large, pleasant meadow with a pond of clear water in it. Some shady trees leaned over, and bushes of water lilies grew at the deep end. Over the hedge on one side we looked into the plowed field, and on the other we looked over at our gate at our master's house, which stood by the roadside. At the top of the meadow was a plantation of fruit trees, and at the bottom was a running brook overhung by the steep bank. Whilst I was young, I lived upon my mother's milk, as I could not eat grass. In the daytime I ran by her side, and at night I lay down close by her. When it was hot, we used to stand by the pond in the shade of the trees, and when it was cold, we had a nice warm shed near the plantation. As soon as I was old enough to eat grass, my mother used to go out to work in the daytime and come back in the evening. There were 6 young colts in the meadow besides me. They were older than I was. Some were nearly as large as grown-up horses. I used to run with them and had great fun. We used to gallop all together round and round the field as hard as we could go. Sometimes we'd rather do rough play, for they would frequently bite and kick as well as gallop. One day, when there was a good deal of kicking, my mother whinnied to me to come to her, and then she said, "I wish you would pay attention to what I'm going to say to you. The colts who live here are very good colts. They are cart horse colts, and, of course, they have not learned manners. You have been well bred and well born. Your father has a great name in these parts, and your grandfather won the cup 2 years at the Newmarket races. Your grandmother has the sweetest temper of any horse I've ever knew. And I think you have never seen me kick or bite. I hope that you will grow up gentle and good and never learn bad ways. Do your work with good will. Lift your feet up well when you trot and never bite or kick even in play. Thank you for listening to me read.
Hi, I'm Katie Clark, and my book is Gray Rabbit Lost One Out. One morning, Gray Rabbit cannot find his favorite book. It's time to clean up, thought Rabbit. First, let's sort out the wooden animals. There were 2 of each kind, just like the Noah's Ark. But one thing was not an animal. What was the odd one out? A teaspoon. So Rabbit sorted out his cups and sauces. But one thing did not belong. What was it? A paintbrush. Rabbit gathered up his paints and brushes and made a useful sign. Now, what was the odd one out? A red and yellow polka dot ball. Rabbit, thank you for listening me read.
My name is Lloyd, and I will be reading Dragon Rider. Chapter 9, Nettlebrand, the Golden One. The dwarves were right. The castle near the place where Firedrake had landed by mistake was a sinister spot, and far more dangerous for a silver dragon than for a few mountain dwarves. It occurred that its occupant took no more interest in dwarves than did in spiders or flies. But he had been waiting for a dragon for more than 150 years. Rain had long ago eroded the castle walls. The towers were in ruins, the stairways overgrown with thistles and thorn bushes. But that didn't bother the castle's owner. His armor protected him from the rain, cold, and wind. Nettlebrand, the Golden One, lay in the deep, damp vaults, far underground, longing for the return of the good years when the castle roof was intact and he enjoyed chasing the only prey he liked to hunt, silver dragons. Nettlebrand's own scales shone like pure gold. His claws were sharper than splinters of glass. His teeth had a keen cutting edge, and he was mightier than any other living creature. But he was bored, consumed by boredom. It made him wild and savage, more ferocious than a chained dog, and so bad-tempered that he had long ago eaten most of his servants. Only one of them was left, a spindly little mannequin called Twigleg. Thank you for listening to me read.
Hi, my name is Josh, and I'll be reading What You Never Knew About Fingers, Forks, and Chopsticks. We all need to eat. The first step of eating is bringing food to your mouth. But how do you do this depends on where you live. In some parts of the world, people use fingers. In other senses, they use chopsticks. And still others use fork, knives, and spoons. For most, fingers for foods and fingers for some. Each socially has rules about the proper way to eat. Fingers have always been with us, but chopsticks, forks, knives, and spoons have not. These utensils had to be invented. The inventing began in the time called the Stone Age. Back to nature and also back to the Stone Age. The name Stone Age describes a time when tools were made from stone. It began 100 of thousands of years ago and ended when people discovered metal. This discovery took place at different times in different parts of the world. In few places there were still tribes that didn't use metal. Early Stone Age people ate by tearing at food with teeth and nails, but later people discovered flint, a kind of stone that often is sharp-edged. Thank you for listening to me read.
My name is Riley, and I'm going to read The Dimensional Machine by me. At Triple Star Labs. I've done it! I've finally done it! Shouted Professor Yager. I've created a dimensional machine. Yeah, right, said Professor Transwarp. They were scientists, inventors, whatever you'd call them. They had made such things as starships, but never something as complicated as that. I'm serious. It goes in length, height, thickness, time, and space. No way. I'll prove it. So he did. He sat down in the chair and turned into a line. The line lengthened as he reached for the controls, then turned 2D. He turned back to normal, then traveled to Dino Time and brought back a Dino egg. Finally, he teleported to the back of the room. I can't believe it! Exclaimed Professor Transwarp. Believe it, Professor Yager replied. He teleported, was gone for 2 minutes, and brought back donuts. Let's go on an adventure, Transwarp exclaimed. So they did. First, they went sliding down a hill in 1D. Next, they attached themselves to a kite in 2D. Then they went to the future. But, run! Shouted Professor Yager. The alien has our machine. Ours? It's yours! That's not the point. So they ran. And ran faster, shouted Professor Yager, as I was about to say, and ran even faster. They finally lost the alien. But it still has the machine, protested Transwarp. So they planned a sneak attack. They stole 2 alien guns. Then, can you guess? They snuck up on the alien and shot him. Then, when they time warped back, they teleported to Hawaii. As it turned out, Hawaii was under a Wiki-Tiki attack. The Wiki-Tiki were made out of lava, and they came from a nearby volcano. The 2 professors thought hard about what beat lava. Do you know? Thank you for listening to me read.
Hi, I'm Jordan Nature, and I'm going to be reading The West Side. Juan stepped off the bus at Columbus Avenue. It was as though he stepped off the bus in Puerto Rico. The street was alive with children and Spanish music. Some of the children, barefoot and wet, played around the water gushing from a fire hydrant, ran in and out screaming laughter and Spanish words. Latin music came blaring out from radios on windowsills from a young man who sat on a box of Bodega Riviera strumming a guitar and singing Spanish love songs. From a bongo band on the corner playing hard rock with a loud Latin beat. Women leaned out the windows, yelling in Spanish to children on the street. A group of men sat around the bridge on a table on the sidewalk playing dominoes. Women in bright cotton dresses sat on the front steps gossiping in Spanish, and the stores. At the home, the stores often had Americano signs. The Blue Moon Bar restaurant, Joe's Shop, the Cooperative Mercado's barber shop. But here, everything's Spanish. Farmaca Flores, Tienda La Favorita, the Piera La Cosa, and they were all crowded together like this. The store signs, the music, the look and the sound of the Spanish people. It seemed somehow more Puerto Rican than anything he had seen in Puerto Rico. He was no longer a stranger. He didn't even need to ask for directions. With a smile on his face, he strode into the Bodega Rivera. He was home. The small, crowded grocery store was just like the one on his street in Barraquitas. The same small sweet Nidos bananas rug in clumps in the dusty window, and long green platinos hung next to them on iron hooks. The same bins of tropical fruits and vegetables. The same cans of bottles on the shelves. The same juices and white beans and pinto beans and chick beans, and even the same penny and candy machine. Thank you for listening to me read.
Hi, my name's Hayden, and I'm reading Jedi Quest. Not in living memory, not even among the oldest Jedi Masters, could they remember a Padawan who was as gifted as Anakin Skywalker. He could have advanced through his temple training in half the time it had taken him. From the beginning, he had been far beyond his classmates in lightsaber skills and the mastery of the Force. Yet, in matters of heart and mind, he still had much to learn, as Yoda continuously pointed out. His teacher had known how gifted he was, but they gave him the same drills and assignments as the others students. They knew he was bored at times, but it was important not to single him out, not to treat him special, but Anakin was special. They all knew it. The trouble was that he knew it as well. He had been a unique case from the moment he had entered the Jedi training at the temple. For one thing, he had been allowed to enter despite having passed the usual age. For another, he had been chosen as a Padawan by Obi-Wan Kenobi from the start, while the other students wondered when they would be chosen, by whom Anakin's destiny was assured. Obi-Wan watched Anakin's progress with an eye that was both loving and careful in one hand and held Qui-Gon's faith in the other. He held Yoda's caution. There were times it was hard to balance these two powerful influences. On the morning of Anakin's 13th birthday, Obi-Wan had presented him with his Padawan gift. Thank you for listening to me read.
Go ahead!
Hi, my name is Bobby, and I'm going to be reading Ryan Me. I felt sick. All morning I felt like I was going to throw up. It must have been something I ate. As much as I love baseball, I really didn't feel like playing today. Hey, Stosh, come here. I need to talk to you about something. It was my coach, Flip Valentini. He always calls me Stosh. Most people do. Flip is a really old guy, and he's a member of the Hall of Fame. So I do what he says. I dragged my tired body off the bench and went over to where he was standing near the backstop. The rest of the team was straggling into Dunfield on their bikes. Kids were tying their shoelaces and stretching. The sound of baseballs popping into the gloves was starting to echo across the grass. Louisville can get pretty hot by the end of April. It felt like It was already 90 degrees. I need to talk to you too, Flip, I said. The coach put an arm around my shoulder. I supported some of his weight. He's been like a father to me ever since my parents split up. Flip wasn't always a Hall of Famer. What happened was that I took him back in time with me to 1942. When we got there, Flip was a teenager. We met the great pitcher, Satchel Paige, and Satch taught him how to throw his famous hesitation pitch. After that, some nut tried to kill us, and I was forced to leave Flip in 1942. Long story short, Flip got to live his adult life all over again in the past, and when I got back to the present day, he was indicated into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Time travel is funny that way. You never know what's going to happen when you start messing around with history, but that's a story for another day. I was all ready to tell Flip I didn't feel well enough to play, but he didn't give me the chance. Stosh, he said, Billy Hoover's mom called me an hour ago. His uncle died suddenly, and they got to go to Texas for the funeral. I felt bad for Billy. He is a good pitcher and a good guy. I met his uncle once. He came to one of our practices and showed us the right way to slide. Who's going to take Billy's place? I asked Flip. You are, Flip told me. I need you to pitch today. What? Me? Pitch? I'm a shortstop. I've always played short. I can't pitch. Flip, I sputtered. Why can't Johnny or Zach pitch? Thank you for listening to me read.
Hi, my name is Mariah Ektonok, and I'm going to be reading Santa Paws, Our Hero. The dog was a little bit confused. Sometimes when he went places with his family, a lot of people would gather around and clap their hands or shine bright lights in his eyes. Other times, the people would wait in a long line and take turns shaking paws with him. He thought it was really strange. It was the week before Christmas, and there were children everywhere. He looked. He liked children a lot, so that was okay. He was sitting on top of a large wooden sleigh, which gave him a great view of the entire mall. It made him feel tall, too. There was a soft red blanket spread across the bench seat, and he was very comfortable. The children would climb up next to him, one at a time, and then talk and talk and talk. He wasn't always sure what they were saying, but he would watch them the entire time and wag his tail the whole time. His family was standing right nearby, and that made him happy. He loved his family. He had lived with the Callens for so long now that he almost couldn't remember anymore what it was like to be a lonely stray. But he never ever forgot how lucky he was to have such a wonderful family. Thank you for listening to me read.
Hi, my name's Desiree, and I'm going to be reading It Came Beneath the Sink. Before my brother and I found the strange little creature under the sink, we were a normal, happy family. In fact, I have to say we were very lucky. But our luck quickly changed when we pulled the creature from the dark hiding place. The sad finding started because of the day we moved. Here we are, kids. Dad honked on happily as we rounded the corner onto Maple Lane and pulled up in front of our new house. Ready for the big move, Kitty Cat? My dad is the only one who can get away with calling me Kitty Cat. My real name is Katrina Martin, but only the teachers call me Katrina. To everyone else, I'm simply Cat. Definitely, Dad, I shouted. I jumped out of the station wagon. Woof, woof. Killer, our Cocker Spaniel, barked in agreement and followed me out onto the sidewalk. Daniel, my goofy little brother, is the one who named the dog. What a dumb name. Killer's afraid of everything. The only thing he kills is rubber balls. Daniel and I had biked past the new house plenty of times already. It's only 3 blocks away from where we used to live on East Main, but I still can't believe we'd be living here. I mean, I always thought our old house was pretty great, But this place is awesome! 3 stories high, sitting up on its own little hill, with butter yellow shutters and at least a dozen windows. A wide porch wraps around the whole house. The front yard must be about the size of a football field. It's not a house, it's a mansion. Well, practically a mansion, enormous, but not exactly fancy. What Mom calls a comfortable old shoe kind of house. Actually, today it really looks messy and old. A few shutters hung crookedly, the grass needed mowing, and the whole place seemed to be covered with an inch of dust. But as Mom said, nothing can be taken care with a good cleaning, a coat of paint, and a few bangs with a hammer. Mom, Dad, and Daniel climbed out of the car, and we all stood staring excitedly at the house. Thank you for listening to me read.
Hi, my name is Kaylee, and I'm going to be reading High Tide at Hawaii. Jack and Annie were sitting on the porch reading books. Jack was reading about gorillas, and Annie was reading about pilgrims. Suddenly, Annie closed her book. She looked up into the sunset. "Hey," Annie said with a smile. Jack looked over at her. "It's back," she said, jumping up and down. "Oh, man," breathed Jack. He knew she was talking about the magic treehouse. Annie could always tell when it was back. Jack closed his book and stood up. "We're going to the woods," he called through the screen door. "There's something we have to check on." "Be back before dark," their mom said. "We will," said Jack. He picked up his backpack. Then he and Annie headed across the yard. When they got to the sidewalk, they started running. They ran up their street and into the Frog Creek woods. In the last light of day, they hurried between the trees. Finally, they came to the tallest oak. They held their breath as they looked up. The magic treehouse was back. "Good going," said Jack. "Thanks," said Annie. She started up the ladder. Jack followed. It was nearly dark inside, but the sun-dried wood smelled like a summer day. "What kind of special magic will we look for this time?" said Jack. They glanced around the treehouse. They saw the scrolls they'd brought back from Shakespeare's theater. They saw the twig from the mountain gorillas and the pouch of corn seeds from the first Thanksgiving. "There," said Annie. She pointed to a book in the corner. A piece of paper was sticking out of it. Jack picked up the book. Then he pulled out the paper and read, "Dear Jack and Annie, good luck on your 4th journey to find a special magic. Thank you for listening to me read."
My name is Caitlin, and I'm going to be reading Ice Princess. "Cassie, can I see you?" Science lab was over, and I was nearly out the door when my physics teacher called me. "Oh," I thought. I did a quick mental check, searching for something I might have done wrong, but I came up blank. "Is there a problem, Mr. Bast?" I asked, stepping back into the lab. He raised his hand, signaling me to wait. As he removed one slice from a wrapped package of sliced bread on his desk, he took it to a lab table and lit a Bunsen burner. Then he grabbed the slice with lab tongs and began toasting it before answering me. "Nothing's wrong," he said, with a smile. "I was just curious if you'd begun weighing your college options." "My options," I said, repeating his word. Options were choices I wasn't sure what mine were yet. They're going to be pretty much dictated by the price tag, I explained. By that I meant I would be attending the university that awarded me the biggest scholarship. He nodded and turned his bread over. "Have you ever heard of the Helen Stoller Physics Scholarship?" "No," I replied. "Ever since I became a junior high a junior in high school. Last September, I started researching science scholarships. Science was my best subject, and I figured if anything was going to win me college money, that would be it. But I'd never heard of a Helen Solar Scholarship. It's given to a student from this part of the state who shows the most promise in physics. Mr. Best explained, still toasting my mind, raced my best friend. Anne was great in physics, so were a few other kids in my class. Thank you for listening to me read.
My name is Lily, and I'm going to be reading Valentine's Day from the Black Lagoon. Valentine's Day is a week away. Mrs. Green says we're going to have a party, and if that's not bad enough, we have to exchange Valentine cards with girls. Yuck! I'm too young for this. I know how it goes. First you give a girl a Valentine card, then she wants to hold your hand. Before you know it, you're married. And what if I give a girl who doesn't give me one back? Oh, the pain. Oh, the hurt. Oh, the embarrassment. Oh, the rejection. Maybe I can be out sick on Friday. Heart sick. On the school bus, Penny and Doris sit down on either side of me. They start telling me about their dolls. I'm moving. I got to the back of the bus, but they followed me. T-Rex, our bus driver, tells us to stop changing seats. So I'm stuck with them for 8 blocks. What do they want? Who are you going to give a Valentine to, Hubie? Asked Doris, fluttering her eyelashes at me. The heart is out of the bag. I don't know, I answered. My name has 2 N's in it, says Penny. Now she flutters her eyelashes at me. I know, I reply. My name doesn't have any N's in it, blurts Doris. That's nice, I answer. Luckily, we arrive at my stop, and I bolt out the door. I'm out and still single. They're both waving and winking at me from the back of the bus, and it pulls away. Thank you for listening to me read.
Hi, I'm Mariana, and I'm going to be reading about the big game. The animals and the birds decided to have a ball game. The animals came into the field first. They had big blue shirts with a big A. Bear put his shirt on and paraded around. He was strong. Deer put her shirt on and got ready to run down the field. She was fast. Kangaroo put her shirt on and practiced her kicking. If she got the ball, she would just drop it in her pouch, hop down the field, and kick a goal. The animals were exercising and stretching out, getting ready for the big game. At the other end of the field, the birds began to arrive. Sparrow came, Wren and Robin flew in. Big birds too, eagle and ostrich. Ostrich couldn't fly, but if she got the ball in the break, she could run. The birds all had little red shirts with a little bee. They put on their shirts and stretched their wings, getting ready for the big game. Where the birds? Thank you for listening to me read.
What do you love?
Reading!
And where do you go to school?
Clear Creek School!
And what grade are you in?
4th grade!
Hip hip hooray!
Hip hip read!
Hip hip hooray!
Hip